What happens when countries go broke? When governments can't pay their bills? When inflation spirals out of control? And when the basic structures of society begin to crumble under economic pressure? What's left? For millions of people around the world, this is not just a hypothetical question. It's a reality they face every day. Love what you're watching? Scan the QR on the screen to join the community. And in this documentary, we take you inside the economic crises that have shaped entire nations, revealing how countries go from thriving economies to living on the edge of bankruptcy. What causes such devastation, and can countries ever fully recover from this? When a nation defaults on its debt, it's not just a financial issue, it's a social one. The ripples of economic collapse stretch far beyond stock markets and currency values. When a country goes broke, it affects everything: jobs, healthcare, education, and security. The social fabric begins to tear as people struggle to make ends meet. Streets filled with protests, soaring unemployment, empty shelves in stores, and the breakdown of essential services are all part of the reality that comes with economic collapse, where even the most basic needs become a struggle. Consider the example of Venezuela. Once one of the richest nations in Latin America, Venezuela's collapse serves as a stark warning of what happens when a country's economy goes off the rails. Fueled by a mix of corruption, mismanagement, and falling oil prices, Venezuela's economy collapsed under the weight of unsustainable debt. Hyperinflation took hold, with prices for basic goods like food and medicine skyrocketing. The value of the Venezuelan bolivar plummeted, rendering people's savings worthless, while citizens' faith in their government shattered, exacerbating a widespread humanitarian crisis. As the government continued printing more money to cover deficits, the currency became worthless, and the country was plunged into one of the worst economic collapses in modern history. This also led to a migration crisis, with millions fleeing the country, adding to the instability and compounding the already overwhelming humanitarian conditions. But Venezuela is just one example. Throughout history, nations have faced the grim reality of economic collapse, and many have gone through similar patterns. The story of Argentina's economic crises offers another case study. In the early 2000s, Argentina defaulted on its debt, leading to a sharp devaluation of its currency, the peso. The country's financial system froze, and its citizens faced widespread unemployment. Businesses shut down, the poverty rate soared, and the middle class was devastated, demonstrating how deeply economic crises can erode an entire nation's stability and societal structure. But what causes these crises in the first place? The reasons are varied and complex. Often, they begin with debt. Countries borrow money to fund development projects, social services, or military expenditures. And as long as the economy is growing, everything seems fine. But what happens when the economy slows, or a government can no longer meet its debt obligations? That's when the cracks start to appear. A country's credit rating falls, interest rates rise, and investors start pulling out, forcing countries to make tough decisions that often harm the population's well-being. Another common cause of economic collapse is corruption. When government officials embezzle funds or mismanage resources, it erodes trust in the economy and makes it harder for countries to recover. Inefficiency, poor planning, and a lack of transparency leave a country vulnerable to financial shocks, often leading to deepened crises. When economic instability sets in, the people who suffer the most are often those who are already the most vulnerable: working-class families, rural communities, and the poor, who bear the brunt of financial mismanagement. In some cases, the economic collapse leads to political instability. Governments that are unable to deliver basic services or manage debt effectively often face protests, riots, and even regime change. This was seen during the Arab Spring, when many countries in the Middle East and North Africa faced economic crises that fueled widespread protests. In Egypt, for instance, the country's economic problems, exacerbated by corruption and poor governance, contributed to the downfall of President Hosni Mubarak, showing how fragile political systems can be when economic pressures reach a boiling point. The lack of jobs, soaring inflation, and the diminishing standard of living only added to the population's frustration, pushing the people to demand a change. When citizens lose trust in their leadership's ability to manage the economy, they often turn to more drastic measures, resulting in the collapse of governments, loss of control over territories, and instability that can take years to rebuild. Austerity measures have been controversial. In Greece, for example, austerity was a key condition for receiving bailout loans during the European debt crisis. The country's government cut pensions, reduced wages, and raised taxes, leading to widespread protests and strikes. While the bailout prevented Greece from going bankrupt, the austerity measures took a heavy toll on the Greek population. Unemployment soared, poverty rates climbed, and trust in the government eroded, making it clear that austerity often worsens a crisis, leading to long-lasting consequences for the nation. Political instability often worsens the economic situation. When governments become unstable, foreign investment dries up, and domestic businesses face increased uncertainty. Capital flight, the mass exodus of money and investment from a country, can cripple the economy further. As political leaders scramble to stabilize their nations, the people who suffer the most are often the ones who had the least to begin with. Unemployment rates soar, social services collapse, and the most basic needs go unmet, further perpetuating the downward spiral of economic failure. In many cases, the loss of political control and the inability to manage economic policies exacerbate public distrust, which leads to a breakdown in societal order. This instability also leads to growing inequality, where the wealthy can often escape the worst impacts, while the poorest bear the full brunt of the collapse. In some extreme cases, it can even result in civil conflict, where economic tensions transform into violence, further destabilizing the region. But not all nations that experience economic crises fall apart. Some are able to recover, although the road to recovery is often long and painful. The key to recovery is often structural reforms, shifting away from failed economic models and creating a new, more sustainable framework. Countries like Iceland, which went through a severe economic crisis in 2008, have shown that with the right reforms, recovery is possible. Iceland implemented a series of measures, including restructuring its banks, cracking down on corruption, and reducing government spending, which helped restore stability, trust, and growth to the economy. So how do countries recover when they go broke? It starts with leadership and the willingness to make difficult decisions. Recovery also requires international support, financial assistance from global organizations, but also partnerships with other nations. Structural reforms, whether in the banking sector, tax system, or government, are essential. But perhaps most important is the resilience of the people. When countries go broke, it's often the citizens who must shoulder the burden. They are the ones who must endure the hardships, navigate the uncertainty, and fight for a better future. The global community must also learn from the lessons of past economic crises. What happens when countries go broke? It's not just about money, it's about lives. Economic crises can lead to poverty, displacement, and social unrest, but they also provide opportunities for rebuilding and renewal. The challenge for the international community is to provide the right support at the right time, to ensure that when countries face economic hardship, they don't face it alone. The ability to assist economically fragile countries can foster long-term growth and sustainability, preventing future collapses. So, what happens when countries go broke? The answer is both devastating and transformative. It's a long and painful process, but it also provides an opportunity to rebuild and rethink how economies function. But the real question remains, what can we do to prevent these crises in the first place? What lessons can be learned, and how can we ensure that nations don't reach the point of economic collapse, avoiding the pitfalls of poor fiscal management and unchecked debt? To dive deeper into these questions and explore the economic crises that have shaped nations, scan the barcode on your screen to join the Popcentral community. Stay informed, stay engaged, and become part of the conversation shaping the future of global economics. This is a crucial topic for understanding the future of financial systems and learning from past mistakes. This is the business dimension, and the story of global economic crises is far from over. Scan the QR to join the community.